UFC 217. Biggest fight card of the year. Oh, that December 30th one with the few fight announcements getting bigger. But it's finally here, man. If you're a fight fan, you've been waiting for a big card, and you're here. And George St-Pierre needs to get his dick out of my face in that picture. Jesus Christ, man. God, dog, get out of my face. I'm excited for it. Again, I said as the card gets closer, I think I get more excited. And I typically do. Listen, I just don't. There hasn't been a lot of media on it. I haven't seen a lot of countdowns or social media following on it. I just think, whoever's run the UFC social media is not doing a great job. When they put stand in bang or barn dot burner, all caps, it's just not compelling. Just do better, who's ever running that. It's a great card, though. It is a great card. We're only going to break down this main card. When you have this many great fights on it, hopefully the card does well. If I had to guess, I would say this pay-per-view, and going off the horrible numbers the last two have done, and going off of this year's pay-per-view buys, and me being a little optimistic, I think UFC 217 does around 700,000 buys. I'll say between 700 to 800. Now, I don't know if that's a home run for them. In George St-Pierre's heyday, he was pulling in 900,000. I think the 4-year layoff, damn near 5-year layoff is an issue with the recent study where the new fans don't really know who George St-Pierre is. Yeah. They're not that into it. Bisping's never been a big pull pay-per-view wise. Looking at the other card, there's just not a lot of heat on there. So I think I don't think that's a bad night, 700,000 compared to what we've been getting. But I think it does between 700 to 800 being a little risky there. Between 700 to 775.
It sounds good, though.
I think that's what it does. I think that's a good night. I think that's a good draw for them. If it does less than 500, I'm going to bust. If it does less than 500, we need to sound the alarms like North Korea's launching nukes. If you're the UFC, you're like, oh, shit. We better figure something out because this card was stacked, and this pay-per-view model ain't working anymore. You're damn right we're going just social. So I hope it does well. And I think 700 would be a good night for them. Mm-hmm. If it does more than that, we go in Sizzler. So let's get into UFC 217 on the main card. I will give my picks. Typically, I'm biased. The toughest one for me to pick on this one would be Cody and TJ, since I love both guys. Cody, we've just been missing, two ships sailing through the night as far as getting him on the show. TJ's been on this show multiple times. TJ is a friend. So is Cody, man. I love both those guys. So that's the toughest one for me to pick. But obviously, I will make picks. And when I make picks, it's nothing personal. Hopefully, no one hates me, and I don't get any rude texts. So the other thing is, doing my homework for this card last night and this morning and going through my notes and stuff like that. When I look at the main card, and when I break down each fight, and I went through the 5 fights, I went through all of them. I went, oh shit, there's a good chance you're getting 5 decisions. And this is a issue because unless you're balls deep fan like me, those last 3 fights are title fights. There is such a good chance all 3 of those go to decision. You're getting 75 minutes of fighting, ladies and gentlemen. And for me, I go, hell yeah. Fighting at the highest level, decisions, I love that shit. If I'm the casual fan, I'm going, oh, hell no. This sucks. I want to see blood. Someone's foot needs to get ripped off. I need to see someone unconscious. Gimme. But for just looking, I go, oh, shit. I think the only finish of the night is going to come from Hendricks versus Borrachina. Wow. That's it. And the only reason why I think Hendricks is on there, he hasn't earned that, especially with his last, what's he lost? 2 out of his last 4. I'm sorry, he's 2-4 out of his last 6. I think the only reason why Hendricks is on there is so fans are familiar with this card because Hendricks was the last guy to fight George St-Pierre, and George St-Pierre is the main event. I think that's why he's on there. And that's why that fight's probably going to be a finish because I know Johnny Hendricks, went back to, not went back, but is trying to reinvent himself. He went to Jackson's. I just think it's too little too late. I think that ship has sailed. This sport we're in is all about runs. He's missed weight so many times. That's a discipline issue, especially when you come from his background at such a high level at Oklahoma State, missing weight. He has to do these catch weights. He's always missing. Then he goes up to middleweight. It's just it's a shit storm, man. And I love the guy. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. And I know you guys keep saying, quit saying you love everyone. No, I actually do, man. He's a great guy. We spent some time together in New York. We had a common sponsor in Echo, and he's salt of the earth, but the ship has sailed. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see. And I don't think moving to Jackson's, which I've said multiple times, is like moving to Florida when you're older. It's just not the move. And I think this is your only finish on the main card. I think Johnny Hendricks gets finished.
Oh.
But the one thing you could say, well, and handsome devil too. This motherfucker could be a model. You look at Borrachino, he's a handsome dude. Super handsome, knockout artist. But he only has 2 fights in the UFC. He's undefeated. He's had 2 fights in the UFC. He murked poor Gareth in 1 minute, basically, and then the other dude he murked early in the second round. So he's a handful. So the UFC must be pretty high on him. If they're putting the last guy to fight George St-Pierre, they're putting him to not kick off the main card. They're like, I think we got something in him. That's usually what they're doing. They're not doing Johnny Hendricks a favor. Johnny Hendricks is there, so people go, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Remember, that's the last I watched George fight. He fought that guy. Oh my God, what happened to him? That's what's happening right now. A vicious Brazilian uppercut is what you're going to get. That's what happened to him. So that's what's going to happen. And to me, I really think that's your only finish on this main card. I got to be honest. Jeez. Unless you get some mistakes by some of these, which are you're looking at the creme de la creme on this card, who's left over the last 4 fights. Creme de la creme, man. These guys don't make a lot of mistakes. So at Borrachino in the only finish on the main card. And then when you go to Wonderboy Masvidal, this is the fight I struggle with. I go back and forth on. The other ones I do not. This is the only fight I go, God damn it. And the underlying story on this fight is what makes these matchups so interesting. Because I think whoever loses this fight, it's career defining. Meaning, if Wonderboy loses this fight, he should be called Wonder Man, because he's not a boy. He's old. He's definitely older. And he had his 2 Woodley fights, which were boring as fuck, and he lost those. So he had the draw, and then he had the loss against Woodley. Before that, he was just on this tirade, just destroying folks. And the Roy McDonald is Roy with a nose issue. So, even though Wonderboy's been on this tear and he beats everyone not named Woodley right now, if you were to lose this fight, you go so far down the queue, you go so far down the back of the line, I don't know if it's enough to ever get back. I don't. I know that you're like, Jesus, man, quit being dramatic. I don't. I think when you have those 2 boring fights with Woodley, it really screwed things over for both of you. I think those were career defining, and now we're waiting. Now, if one of these guys can somehow get a convincing finish over the other one, now you got something. So whoever wins, is onto something. But if Masvidal can finish Wonderboy, he that's your title shot. That's your next title shot. But that you can't say the same for Wonderboy. No one's trying to see part 3. I keep going back and forth on this fight. Keep going back and forth. I looked at the odds, and Masvidal's an underdog. I like Masvidal as a dog in this. I like him as a dog. I think he has more tools to win the fight. I think he can apply pressure. I think his defense is remarkable. He his takedown to striking, his cardio, and he's just game. And I think Wonderboy, as long as Masvidal doesn't play in that distance game and falls in love, if he can avoid that kind of those crazy kicks and that long reach, I just see Masvidal winning by decision, and it's going to be a close decision. Someone's going to walk away with a lot of fans going, oh, he got robbed. I think you get Masvidal by decision. I like him as a dog in this. What else you got?
Next one.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Rose Namajunas. How you like that for pronunciation? Suck on them balls. I'm getting better. It's 2017. Who would have thought on the biggest card of the year featuring George St-Pierre, your most dominant fighter would be a 115-pound girl. Imagine 4 years ago if you went, hey, George St-Pierre is going to headline Madison Square Garden, but he's not going to be the best fighter on the card. You'd go, get the fuck out of here. No. There's this little Polish girl named Joanna who is an absolute savage. She's 115 pounds, and she's so goddamn dominant, it's not even funny. Oh, and she just happens to be the best striker in the card as well. Well, Wonder Boy's on there. No, I get that. I think Joanna has better striking in mixed martial arts than Wonder Boy does. People will argue that, but I think Joanna overall and her record will show this as far as volume punches, her accuracy, the way she's dynamic, she mixes up her defense. I think she's the best striker on the card. 150 pound. Welcome to 2017, y'all. You got George St-Pierre on the card, and a 150-pound girl is the most dominant champion on the card. I think, for Rose, it's just, if you're going to beat Joanna, you probably should have done it a few years ago. I think she's getting this momentum. If you see all her hit mitts on Instagram, you're like, Jesus Christ, she's scary, man. Rose has always been a favorite of mine. We trained together in Denver. I love her husband, Pat Barry. He's one of the best people I know. I keep trying to figure out how the fuck is Rose going to pull this off. The only way she can pull this off is almost the Buster Douglas thing and I think Joanna is going to be the biggest favorite as well, probably a minus 500, minus 600. But for Rose, she has that X factor where you can train jiu-jitsu. You can train striking. But Rose has this explosive, like spider ability with her flying arm bars, where it's this weird X factor, unconventional explosiveness that you can't train for. And she has to hope, between rounds 1 and 3, she can pull one of those off and get Joanna some sort of trouble. Bearing a Joanna brain fart or her just taking a round off, I just don't see how Rose can win this fight. And if you're a fan of Rose, what you have to worry about is Rose is so goddamn tough. She's one of those girls who's going to hang in there, and then the surgeon comes into play. Then Joanna nip tuck Jędrzejczyk comes in and gives you a nose job. Oh, you want pouty lips? You get pouty lips. You're getting some eye work done. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's going to murk you up with those elbows and those strikes. Where if you're too tough, you never come back the same. So if you're a Rose fan, that's what you have to worry about here. You really do. But the X factor in this matchup, which she's the biggest dog on the card, is her pulling off a flying arm bar, them being in the clinch, and her going for some crazy thing that Joanna didn't expect, hasn't seen before, which Rose is the first opponent that has those capabilities. Is that going to happen? Probably not, which is why I think Joanna wins. And again, I know I said I think most of them will be all decision. If there's a title fight that it was going to be stopped, it'd be because Joanna just TKOs Rose. But I will take Joanna by decision. That'd be your safe route. Toughest fight to pick on the card, Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw. Cody's 11-0. Cody's your champ. Cody's coming out party was against Dominic Cruz, where I thought was too much too soon. Boy, was I wrong. He looked great. When I had TJ on the show, TJ goes, because I was telling him off camera, I went, Cody's a monster, man. He goes, he's a monster. No doubt he's a monster. He has all the skills. He goes, let me ask you something, Brendan. He goes, do you think when Cody beat Dominic Cruz, do you think it was a matter of Cody being that good or Dominic Cruz being that bad that night? He goes, have you ever seen Dominic fight like that? I went, God, I really can't. He goes, I think it was a combination of Cody having the fight of his life and Dominic having an off night. Dominic did not fight me like he fought Cody. He just didn't. There's some weight to that statement. I get it. I do think Cody is that good. I think Cody beats Dom, 9 times out of 10. Now, younger Dom's a different thing. Dom without the knee surgery is a different animal. But Dom currently, I don't think he's ever going to beat Cody Garbrandt. I just don't. You can say he had a bad night, whatever. I just don't think Dom can beat Cody right now. The game's just evolved. He's a lot younger, explosiveness. It's a bad matchup stylistically. There's no one that hits like Cody Garbrandt. There's just not. Now, that being said, and them, with the Ultimate Fighter coaches, and there's all this beef, and Cody thrives in that in the drama, and he likes that, and he's sticking his tongue out, and people thought he was going to be too, emotional when he fought Dom, and it actually helps him, and he thrives in that. The one X factor in this fight, I always talk about X factors. The X factor in this fight is Cody's never been champ. He's only 11-0. He really hasn't walked through fire, the same fire TJ has to get to this belt. And there's all this drama, and everyone's on Team Alpha Male, and Cody's the man. Cody's been doing a lot of traveling. Cody's recently married. Cody recently has a girl on the way. He's young. I don't know how he's going to deal with this fame yet. I'm not sure. What's his schedule like right now? Is he training as much as he trained to get to the belt? Is he doing everything that got him there? I'm not saying he's not. What I'm saying is the X factor is once you get to that level, the commitment should become even more strenuous. You should be in the training room even more. I know for a fact, and I can say this with full confidence, TJ has. TJ is obsessed with beating Cody Garbrandt. It's literally all he thinks about. He sleeps, eats, walks. His whole world is consumed with getting that belt back. Can Cody Garbrandt say the same thing? I don't know. I know if TJ doesn't watch his P's and Q's and gets in a brawl with Cody, he will get knocked out clean like never before. No one hits like Cody Garbrandt in this division. No one ever has, to be honest. At the bantamweight, he's a bigger. I don't want to say bigger. He's a smaller, quicker, more precise, better striker version of Chuck Liddell. That's what he is. Oh, again, picking this fight. I love both guys. I like TJ as an underdog. I think he beats him by decision. Ooh. I hate saying that.
Is he a big underdog?
He's probably a minus 125, minus 150, which isn't shit in mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
I think, TJ can use his wrestling to steal rounds or he can control the octagon with takedown attempts. So he's a plus 155.
Yeah.
So I think TJ's wrestling. Now, Cody's a phenomenal wrestler. He doesn't have the college credentials as TJ because he decided to pursue fighting earlier. I think he would have been a All-American in college if he wanted to, but he didn't go through the same extensive training as TJ did in college and getting that experience in wrestling. So I think TJ, with his dynamic movement, stuff like that, he can win rounds by pushing him to the cage, controlling the octagon, and that will be a factor here. I think TJ gets a decision win, but I think these two will fight probably 3 times. I think you're going to get a trilogy. These two match up so well, the belt's going to flip back and forth. Remember, Cody's young. He's only 11-0. He's going to be your next UFC superstar. I just think this fight, I don't know why, but I'm leaning with TJ. I think he wins by decision. He's consumed with winning this fight. The X factor is, can you say the same thing about Cody Garbrandt? So I got Borchinia by finish. I got Masvidal, the dog, by decision. I got Joanna, the champ, by decision. I got TJ Dillashaw, the dog, by decision, which brings us to our main event, the fakest main event of all time. But I will still give you my money and watch it, and even though the fight makes 0 sense. The thicker than a Snickers, George St-Pierre versus Michael Bisping, the true champion at middleweight. George has been out damn near 5 years. The last fight to get a finish was UFC UFC 94 against BJ Penn, but that doesn't count as a finish because the cornerman had to throw a towel in. Correct. 2009. Boom. Fucking brain trauma my ass. So, in his last finish was UFC 94. In the 4th round, corner stoppage, BJ Penn. Other than that, decision Thiago, decision Dan Hardy, decision Koscheck, decision Jake Shields, decision Carlos, decision Nick Diaz, decision Johnny Hendricks. Now, when I go through all those guys, and I don't want to do that, but all those guys, a lot of them were very one-dimensional, and it's easy fights for George. But the game has changed like a motherfucker. And I think Bisping has fought 8 times since then. So Bisping's fought 8 times while George was doing whatever, studying aliens, trying not to get abducted by aliens, whatever the hell he's been doing. And I think George is a favorite in this fight. I think he's, what is he, minus 1 something? 175, 125? I don't like, so George, oh shit, almost even money. So George is minus 120. So George is minus 120.
On Intertops.
George is minus 120. I just feel like it's 2017. You took damn near 5 years off. The game is completely different since you left. Have you gotten better over 5 years? And also, if you missed the game that much, why wait 5 years? That's very strange to me. The calling, are you doing it because there's these super fights give you these huge paydays now? If the payday wasn't as big, would you have came out? So I have some skeptical hip eyes why you came out. Is Bisping the exact fight you wanted because it's the safe fight because Bisping's not a knockout artist, so you don't have to worry about brain trauma? Why come back to 85? He looks thick. This is what I think happens. I'm with Bisping on this one. I'm with Bisping I think he's the bigger fighter. And I know a lot of people say George is stronger. I don't know if he is. I think as far as in the cage strong and just being dynamic and impossible to take down, Bisping is a motherfucker to take down. Ask any of the guys. Ask Tim Kennedy. Ask Chael Sonnen. Ask Jason Miller. Dan Henderson, CB Dalloway, Talles Leadys, all these guys. Bisping is a bitch to take down. If you do get him down, he's the best at getting back up. And his cardio is unlike anybody George St-Pierre has ever fought. Now, George might be able to sit back and jab him, but the way Bisping pushes the pace, I feel like it could be an issue for George St-Pierre. I also think George is going to have issues. I think what's going to happen is the announcers are going to be on George St. Pierre's nuts in the first 2 rounds. So, God, look at him. Taking 5 years off. This is amazing. He looks phenomenal. Look how he's pushing the pace. How can he take 5 years off and come back and look this good? And then as the rounds out, if it's 3 rounds, I got George St. Pierre all day. The fact that it's 5 rounds, then championship round, main event, and George has 5 years off against a worker like Bisping who throws so much volume and has great cardio, I think Michael Bisping wins in a decision 3-2. As the dog. So really I have 3 dogs on this main card. I got Bisping, TJ Dillashaw, and Masvidal as my dogs. And I think you're getting all decisions except for that first fight, Hendricks Borchina. I think Borchina finishes Hendricks with a vicious uppercut or some shit like that.
Good stuff.
There you go. You disagreeing with any of that? You got any picks?
No.
You like them, huh?
I'm going to stick with your picks.